Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to another episode of the Nation80 Podcast. This is episode 31. It's your boy Rod, and I'm here with my cousin Mike and my co-host. What's going on, Mike?
What's going on, Rodney? Back for another episode. At least out here, it's snowing, and spent my morning shoveling the driveway. But it's all good because I spent the week pretty much just on my Steam Deck and had some pretty good things happen with that. So doing pretty well.
That's what's up. That's what's up. So, like always, and I don't say this much often, but of course, if you're on YouTube, come and subscribe to the channel, Nation80, and you'll see some awesome videos. Mostly of our podcast, Michael has made some awesome videos talking about the Steam Deck and other subjects, but we will definitely have more stuff coming in the future. Otherwise, let's get to the stuff that we're digging this week. So, Mike, why don't you start us off because you've been pretty heavy on some things you've been doing on the Steam Deck. So why don't you go ahead and tell us about that?
Yeah. So I guess first, I was really sick this weekend. I haven't been at work. I haven't been to work since Tuesday. So I've had a lot of time to really just relax, get the body better, and really play around with the Steam Deck. And one of the things I got actually, I think I texted you this or showed you a picture of this. Back I think at the beginning of the year, late 2022, D Brand had come up with a case. It was called Project. What was it? Project Switch Kill or Kill Switch, and it was basically a case that you put onto your Switch that had a protective cover that went onto it. And one of the things that was cool about it was that it had this kickstand that would magnetically attach to that case, and so it was really cool idea. I was really interested in it because I wanted to. I've been looking, Rodney. I've been looking because my Steam Deck travels with me all the time, and I've been looking for a way to kind of slim down this monster of a device. And even though Steam gives you a case to put your deck in, which was very cool. It's a hard shell case. It's a very nice case. It just made it in my backpack that much bulkier. So what D Brand had offered was a way to really slim down that process if you're traveling a lot with your Steam Deck. And so I thought it was a pretty good idea. I actually had put in a pre-order for it, and it was pricey. It was, I think, for just the base kit, or if you wanted the travel cover, because they did everything weird. It was like they did a la carte, and so if you wanted the travel cover, you're spending $75 for the case, the cover, and then some little extras that came with it. And so I thought I was gonna bite the bullet on it, but then D Brand ended up recalling their cases because in some instances, the fan, depending on which fan you had in your Steam Deck, that magnetic attachment would slow the fan down, and of course cause overheating issues with the Steam Deck. And so they had to recall all their cases so that they could redesign that case. So then I was like, okay, that's kind of a bummer. On the flip side, there's a company called JSOX. At least that's how I think it's pronounced. They're a Chinese-based company, and they've been putting out a lot of third-party accessories. In fact, more than even D Brand has, and a lot of it's been docks and different types of cases. Really, just the like the rubber silicone cases that you could put on a Steam Deck. But they came up with their version of what D Brand had put out, and at a significantly cheaper price. I ended up paying, I think, $29, $30 for it to have it delivered. So I got that, and I'm loving it. It's not as beefy, or I don't want to say secure, but it doesn't cover the entire Steam Deck like I would like to want it to. Like I want to say the only thing it doesn't cover are the triggers, but it goes on really nice. It's got a hard shell front cover. It's really nice, and I've been using this for maybe the last week or so, and I just throw it in my backpack, and it's so much better than having a big old case in there. So I had the case, the original case, the hard shell case, and then I bought, like, I think Rodney, I think I showed you the soft cover. It's like a gray soft cover case that was a little bit thinner than the original Steam
Yep, I
case.
think so. I think
Uh,
you did send that to me.
Yeah, but it was a soft cover. It wasn't a hard shell, and so it was fine for what it was. But it just still kind of nervous because it didn't really protect the Steam Deck. But with the JSOX case, man, I'm telling you, like it's nice. It is really nice and especially for the money. But what's really cool is that they did a little like they call it their modular case, so you could buy all kinds of accessories for this, and anything from like a you could put a fan on to the Steam Deck to
Hmm.
get more cooling out of the system. You could put a hard drive on, like an SSD on there. You could attach an external battery. They have so many different things that you can do on here. And then the case itself comes with a kickstand that actually works really well. So I'm really enjoying this thing. So I've had that. And then for this week, as far as what I've been doing, because I've been out of work because of covering for being sick, I decided I was going to go in on learning how to rip my own PS2 games. And so I did it with one game and got super excited about it. Uh, got it loaded up, got MU Deck loaded up onto my Steam Deck, and the game worked well. And then Rodney, I went down a rabbit hole. I went down a serious rabbit hole. So one, I went through eBay, and then two, I found a store that's maybe a couple of miles from where I live, where they only sell old school stuff. And I've been there twice now, and
Hmm.
so they have a whole section of PS2 games. And within the course of a week, I've bought uh, 8 games. No, that can't be right. There's probably more than that. Um, but I bought a lot of games, and I went to town, and I think I showed you a screenshot. I'll post it up here in the episode.
Hmm.
But I ended up buying. Actually, let me pull it up right now. That way I can actually tell you how much. So 4, 8, so 10. So I have 10 games now on my Steam Deck, and they're pretty much the classics. I got God of War. I'm playing through that. Grand Theft Auto, Vice City, Kingdom Hearts, Max Payne, Mercenaries, Metal Gear Solid 2, Prince of Persia, Sands of Time, Ratchet and Clank, Robotech, Battle Cry. Oh my god. Sly 2, Band of Thieves, SOCOM 2, and then Street Fighter 30th anniversary.
You already got
And
two of my favorite games, Robotech and Mercenaries. Mercenaries was one of my favorite open world games back
dude,
in the day.
here's the thing, Roddy. I got uh, you know, uh, there's two ways to do this. You could either source your ROMs from somewhere
Hmm.
um, that's not really legal, or
Hmm.
you can use what you already own. And so the easiest path for me to get into it was through PS2 because I did not know that when PlayStations came out, they didn't um, protect their CDs. Okay,
Hmm.
so you can literally just, as long as you got a DVD reader, you can literally just pop any of their discs into your computer, and it'll read the information on there. Okay.
Yes.
Now that's not the case with some systems like the OG Expo or any other system. Really, it's only PS1 and PS2. Um, everything else requires you to either have a special drive or go through a hacked system. So like the GameCube, you have to go through a hacked system or any of the Xbox systems and so on. And so this was the easiest way to start getting ROMs onto my Steam Deck. And so it takes maybe 15, 16 minutes to burn or rip that information from the PlayStation games, and then it takes maybe a couple of minutes to transfer them over to the Steam Deck. And man, I'm telling you, they work so well. I've been playing probably God of War the most right now.
Hmm.
And I'm in 16 by 9 aspect ratio. It's at a 1080 resolution, which looks super crisp on the Steam Deck. I haven't played it docked yet,
Hmm.
but everything looks great. Everything's playing at 60 frames per second. There's no stutters. There's no lag. Sometimes when you source like ROMs from somewhere, uh, you have like stutters or crashes or um, music that lags behind the actual action or whatever, and it can kind of get you deterred from playing those type of games. Uh, but just ripping the originals that you already own, I mean, it's amazing. So now I've got plans in my head. I'm like, okay, so now I got to get God of War 2, God of War 3, got to get Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. And what's weird is that some of these games are already ported over to the PC, right? So like Vice City, already ported over to the PC, uh,
Mm-hmm.
but it plays terribly, especially on the Steam Deck. And you got to go through a lot of loopholes just to even get the game running. All right. And then even when you do get it running, you got to remap the controls and this and that. Uh, there's no remapping here. It's better to play the emulated version than the actual ported version. And so I'm having a lot of fun with this right now. I've completely haven't played any of my actual Steam games this week. I've just been playing emulation this week. Ratchet and Clank, I've been playing that. That looks really good. Again, Grand Theft Auto Vice City. That's my favorite Grand Theft Auto game. Uh, that plays really well. So I didn't realize how much fun it was to run from the police in that game. Um, so having a lot of fun right now, Rodney, playing these emulated games, and I got to tell you, like anybody who's listening that has a Steam Deck, I would highly encourage you to check out emudeck.com. They're the ones that set this whole thing up with Steam and made it very user friendly. Just to even get it set up took less than, I don't know, I would say 5 to 10 minutes. It was
Mm.
super simple. It's just a point and click. And and a lot of people will say, oh, make sure you have keyboard and mouse. I didn't even use any of that, just because I was like, all right, let's just see what happens, and it worked out super well just using the Steam Deck handheld to go through the desktop and get this emulation process started up. So very, very happy with what went down this week, and I got some big plans. I think the next one I'm going to tackle is Xbox, like the OG Xbox,
Okay.
because there are certain games on there that are exclusive to only that system. Uh, and so, like I think it's called Chrism Skies. I don't know if you remember that one. Um,
That was an
so
airplane game, wasn't it?
yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that one I definitely want to do. Doesn't look too hard. I just have to get a certain. There's like a old school DVD drive that will be able to read that disc, because
Mm-hmm.
otherwise it won't read on any other DVD drive. But once I get that, and they're like $20, I believe. Once I get that, then it should be just as easy as the PS2 to get set up. So I'm just having fun with this right now, Rodney.
That's what's up. You kind of taking me back because I used to be I'm trying to say this in a legal way. I used to procure a lot of PlayStation 2 games that I had a couple spindles in my apartment when I was stationed in Virginia. And you're right, it didn't take much to burn a game down. Matter of fact, uh what the way to do it back in the day was to go to GameFly and rent the game and then pull it down and then
Yep.
send it back,
Yep.
you know. But times have changed and stuff like that. But yeah, those were the good old days. And I did it for like the Xbox 360. I don't recall doing it for the regular Xbox, but there was a good period of that stuff going on. But yeah, let us know the progress of that. I need to get another SD card, and then I think I'm gonna do the Emu deck as well, to get some of that stuff as well.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
super worth it. It's got me way back into games that I wasn't sure I was going to be into.
mhm,
And these games have aged well. Have aged
mhm.
real well. I
I
kind
was
of
gonna
did
say
so.
Robotech looked really good. The video that you showed me.
Yeah, like Robotech looks good, it plays good. I think maybe if anything, SOCOM, I didn't really give SOCOM that much of a chance
Mm,
because there was a lengthy tutorial for that one. Uh
mm,
but like I was playing Metal Gear Solid this morning and I was like, damn, I forgot how high production this game was, man. And
mhm.
uh just the visuals alone. I mean, of course, you got to sit through like 20 minutes of cutscene.
Sure.
before you can actually get to some gameplay. But it's a
And
Hideo
I don't even
Kojima
think you can
game.
skip it, right?
I don't think so. It's a
Yeah.
it's a Hideo game. So, um, but even when you get into it, it's just it's polished. It looks really, really good, and just kind of you know makes you wonder like what happens to some of the games now, as far as them coming out and not being finished and this and that. And you have to wait for patches and everything like that, and so
Internet access.
yeah,
If
internet
you're gonna
access.
ask me, it's internet access. If back in the day, you didn't have it.
Right,
You know,
right.
it was a slim thing, and it was only used for one particular way.
Yep,
So, that game had to be,
had to be perfect out the
crisp.
gate.
Yep,
Yeah,
absolutely. You
I,
know.
and I think about it, yeah, you never had to worry about getting an update,
Mhm.
or getting a patch
Because
done
like
to your
Metal
game.
Gear Solid didn't have an update. I don't recall any, and if it did, the whole game had to be recalled and
Right.
then put back out there. Because I remember, you talk about Vice City. Vice City didn't have a update, but they
No.
had that hot coffee situation, and they
Right.
had to go ahead and clean that up. So it just, I think, in later copies they cut that out compared to previous ones or whatever. I
Mhm.
don't remember, but Mike, let's talk about what I'm not digging before I
Uh-oh.
talk about what I am digging,
Uh-oh.
right? All right. So every year I have faithfully bought NBA 2K.
Oh,
And this is going all the way back to the original, right? I've loved NBA 2K. A little bit later down the road, I did not buy it, I think 1 year. But then after a while, I did buy it every year. And I usually buy it on discount because I'm not a $60 game person anymore. But so when I bought NBA 2K23, I bought it, I think, for $30, $20. Bought it on discount. And this week was the first week I finally installed it and played it. And I'm going to tell you now, I am highly disappointed in the game. And the reason that I say that is I don't play online. It's always been a mixed bag about playing online because some people love the experience, some people don't love the experience. I'm not one who plays online. The way to get me is I always play my league, or I think it's my GM, things of that nature, and stuff like that. But this has to be by far the 1 year that it looks like they went back in the past when it came to the animation. I've
oh,
never seen so many players not look like their actual selves on the basketball court. That
really?
is, it's really upsetting, right? And the
Like the
thing,
likeness or the motion or
the likeness more, the likeness of the individual, right? Like, so for example, I'm using the Houston Rockets right now, and there's an individual by the name of Jabari Smith Jr., who was, if I remember correctly, he was the second pick in the draft this past year or the third pick.
Mhm.
And that guy looks like a cartoon character in the game, and he doesn't look like that in real life.
Mm.
And that was the first start. And then there was another character I saw, and it just looked like they didn't even attempt to try to get his face right. And I don't know how they're setting it up or anything like that. And I kind of had heard rumblings. I didn't pay attention to the reviews this past year because I know how I am when it comes to NBA 2K. I normally buy it because I like, playing what I play on it and so forth. But, you know, I don't want to make it sound like I'm totally against the game, but this is like one of the games, like, Mike, me and you have spoken many times before that when you're sitting there and you're like, I want to play something for a couple minutes before I got to go do whatever.
Mhm.
And I sat there last night looking at NBA 2K23, and I was like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and play this. And then I got like right to the menu screen, and then I was like, you know what? Nah, I'm not interested. And this is out of character for personally me, because usually I'll go in there, bust somebody down for 4 quarters, and then go about my business.
Right.
But if you look at my rap sheet when it comes to NBA 2K22, 21, 20, 19, 18, they all sit there in my Steam, and they've all have massive amount of hours that I played them in NBA 2K23. I'm not going to say that I won't put some hours in the game, but it's not my go-to right now.
Really?
and that's unfortunate,
That's
right?
crazy.
Yeah,
Y- Yeah, and I
and
feel like, you know, you have two types of people, right? You have the people that buy these sports titles year after year after year, depending on what their sport is. So for you, it's basketball. For
mhm,
somebody else, it might be FIFA or soccer, just in general, or football, or even like the baseball games, right?
mhm,
So like for me, like you have more time in 2K than I do. I think my latest one it maybe be 22. But that goes to show, like, I haven't played this year yet, just because I've been waiting for football to get done with. And so like I'm huge into Madden, but I don't buy Madden every year because I always get scared when I look at the reviews and it's like incremental upgrade or they've gone downhill.
mhm.
And I haven't looked at the reviews for 2K. Um, but I think it's kind of a symptom of there's no competition. Like you remember when, like for the soccer games, there are no other soccer games other than FIFA. There are no other football games other than Madden. There are no other basketball games other than 2K. You remember when it used to be 2K and NBA Live? Madden and 2K, like 2K had an NFL game.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if there's ever been another soccer game other than FIFA. I can't remember.
There's
Um,
another one, it's like Pro Evolve Football or something like that. Konami used to bring out, but they didn't have the licenses for it, and then
right.
I think it went downhill, but it's all been because of exclusive licensing
Yeah.
between, and like you said, you're right, it has a lot to do with there being no competition. And while you were talking, I just happened to look up an NBA 2K23 review, and it got a 6 on IGN,
Oh,
right?
jeez.
So, that already tells you, usually IGN usually gives something like this a 7 or a 8 when it comes to Madden. I mean, of course, they've been a little bit more harsh, which I enjoy, and and not just IGN, but just in general.
Right.
People have been a bit more harsh because, like you said, there's no competition, so they're holding them to a higher standard. Where it's like, look, if you're expecting me to pay $60 every year, then you better start really putting some work into this game. And
Right.
so, I'm not going to stand here and say this is the last year I'm going to buy NBA 2K, but I will say I will be looking deeper at the reviews of NBA 2K. And if the next one has a low review, then it's not getting bought. Sell, no sale, doesn't matter because it's unacceptable. Even if I did buy it on sale, it's unacceptable that a game like this, and here's the thing, it's got millions and millions of fans that spend so much money. I don't spend VC in this game, but I know people who do,
Right.
you know, and you're still, and so it's not like it's a money thing or anything. It's just the fact that you're not putting the work in. Are you saying, I think we can get away with this? Madden tried it, I think, a couple years ago, where they were like, oh, we can get away with this. And people were livid. But then Madden did attempt to try to fix the issue, even though they still have a hard time with some of the things that they're doing with Madden. But the fact that there's no competition makes this worse
Now,
altogether.
is it so when you buy these every year, is it because of like mechanic changes, upgrades, and the visuals, rosters? Like, what's your main motivation for going in on these year after year?
I think it's a little bit of everything. Just an update of, like, for example, the announcers. Just after a while, you get annoyed at them just going, "That guy scored 20," and you're like,
Okay.
or some of it is the visuals, some of it is the mechanics. You know, I remember not with PS5, but let's say with PS4, whatever version of NBA 2K came out at that time, that version on the PS4 looked amazing. And because they're like slow to get it upgraded on the PC, you have to wait the following year to
Mm,
see the upgrades in graphics,
mm.
right? So that was one of the reasons for it. Now, don't get me wrong, you could download the roster and you can keep it moving for a couple years. It's just, it's just been tradition. That's, more than anything, kind of like people with Madden, it's just been tradition that they're going to give you a fun, entertaining thing to play. And for years it's been that way. But that excitement, and I wouldn't, at first I could have said, well, maybe it's me as a gamer, but no. It's not. It's they just aren't putting their best foot forward anymore. And I don't know it's lack of staff or what, but it just doesn't seem to have that same oomph that it used to have.
Yeah, I think it's just no competition. I
Yeah.
look at the FIFA games, and I remember getting one for the Switch, and I enjoyed it for what it was. But year after year, they would come out with a new one and a new one, and every review after it was like, "Don't buy it." It's literally the only thing they did was a roster upgrade. That's the
Hmm.
only thing they did. They didn't change the visuals. They didn't change how they did the presentation. There are
Yep.
no gameplay mechanics changed. It's the same. You're paying $60 for a roster update,
Hmm.
literally a roster update. And I think they're the laziest of the sports franchises. At least with like 2K or Madden, you get like, oh, we have a different throwing mechanic or a different shooting mechanic. Like they
Yep.
sugarcoat it like that. Or here's this online feature, blah 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 blah. With FIFA, they literally tell you it's like, yeah, it's just a roster change.
Yeah.
Here's give us
No, Madden
$60.
again, if I remember correctly, like early like Madden 2010s, don't hold me to this. They attempted that and it did not work out in their favor. This is back in the day when they used to have remember they used to have a guy like a radio announcer, sports announcer, and he would tell you about what happened this week and stuff like that. And
Hmm.
it seemed like other than changing the soundtrack and changing the roster, that was it.
Yep.
The game still kind of played the same or whatever.
Yep.
But
Yep.
yeah, so but with that being said, let's get to some stuff that I had some fun with, right? And some of this, it's been a list because I played quite a bit this week, and I'm happy I did because I had fun with all of. So first things first, I went back and I've been still playing Enslaved. Enslaved is the game I mentioned back in the day with you, Michael. Talk about used to play it on the PlayStation 3.
Yeah. In
And
fact, I saw it at that store. I almost bought it, but I knew you had already bought it, so I was like, "Well, Rodney already has it. I don't need to emulate it. I'll just play it
and it
with."
plays great on the Steam Deck. It's a
Okay.
game that I think you can play for like 4 hours on the Steam Deck with no without a charger or whatever.
Okay.
It doesn't kill your battery. But I've had a lot of fun with that game. It's like I said, it's almost like playing an Uncharted clone, except it's in a different setting and world and stuff like that. But it's been a blast. And I don't know if I'll beat it anytime soon, but it's been great just doing level by level and kind of going through the nostalgia of that. Another game that I've been playing this week has been WWE 2K22. Now, for those who don't know, I'm a big wrestling fan. And as of this recording, Royal Rumble was just yesterday. So this week, decided to finally install 2K22. And this game kind of has, not this game in general, but just wrestling games have a bit of nostalgia because Michael, Brandon, and myself used to always play games like Royal Rumble and the Sega and a few others, having a blast and whatnot. And this game was fun. And this is another game that 2K had issues with because the other game was so buggy. 21 was or excuse me, not 21, but 20 was so buggy that they skipped a year and they came out with 22, which was a great thing. And so I am that guy that goes into a game not knowing the controls all the way. And here I am doing the tables, ladders, chair match, trying to understand the controls. And I was getting worked. But guess what? I had so much fun playing that game that it didn't really bother me. And of course, as time progressed, I did learn the controls, but it was just a game that I picked up, button mash, and I had a blast with. And that's, to me personally, my favorite type of games, a game that I can just, pick up. I don't got to do a massively long tutorial. I'm not stupid, but it might take me a while to get it. But once I get it, it's going to be fun. And so I had a lot of fun with that. Another game I played was Stray. I didn't play this game long, but for those who don't know, this is a game where you're controlling a cat, and this cat is going through a cyberpunk-ish type of world. And I played like the first level of this game, and this game is only like 7 gigs, but it is beautiful. The world is beautiful. Some of the creatures you come across early on are unique, and it's kind of one of those games where yes, you don't sit there with a gun shooting everything, but they're kind of like in a puzzle setting where you have to determine how you're going to get out of a room without getting hurt or stuff like that. But it's been a fun game. I'm super excited to play that further. And then let's see. The last two games here is I have Hades. I started playing that after Michael's recommendation, and Hades has been a lot of fun. It's really impressive how the levels, well, not even the levels, but just how it works, because Hades is like, hey, go ahead and just, good luck to you. And you're sitting there going, well, I don't know how to find health. I don't know how to attack anything. They gave you no clues. And then you die. And then you come back. And then that's when the game kind of really starts. And it's been I only played it for like an hour yesterday, but it's been a fun experience, and so I can't wait to get back on that again. And my last game here is Ghostwire Tokyo, where you point blank, the character you go is being hurt in a car accident. I guess he's like near death, and this thing takes over your body. And now you two are both fighting over your body. But now these I guess you call it demons have been taking souls out of Tokyo, and you're on the way trying to, like, for example, save your sister. And this is another game I didn't make it too far in, but it has a unique experience, and I've been having fun with it. And it'll be another game that I keep on playing. It's another beautiful game. There's a lot more games, and these are a lot of the games I got during Christmas that I finally installed and been playing. And I've been playing them between my Steam Deck and my PC. So, for example, like I played Cyberpunk on my PC. The reason why I haven't played God of War is because Michael has that game and we need to resync our Steam. But that's something else I wanted to play on my PC. As far as Hades, that's Steam Deck all day. NBA 2K, if it worked right, excuse me, if we ever get to a point that I'm enjoying it, it's something I would play on my Steam Deck because I love those type of games on my Steam Deck. But other than that, that's been my week. I just been kind of just tinkering around with a couple different things, but I'm super excited to get back into some more gaming.
Yeah, that's a quite impressive list there. With Stray, I that's a game I definitely want to try out. I know that won for best independent game this year or for 2022, and it was everybody was just talking about it. It's kind of on that same level as Hades, because Hades, I think the year prior, 2 years prior, won for that same accolade. And so I really want to try that one. The WWE one, that one's interesting to me because I remember when I think you said the 21 version of it came out and it was just trash. And
Hmm.
I hadn't really played wrestling games that much. I kind of got a little bit of an itch to get back into it just off of nostalgia from what you had said when we were kids. Um, but from what I had seen and what I'd heard, it was like 21 was not the way to go. And uh, that generation skip looked like it was the best move for them. And
Yes.
so I do want to try that one out. Obviously, Enslaved, uh, Hades. Yeah, again, I keep saying I'm not huge into roguelike games, but the ones that I am uh, into are really good. And I thought Hades was an awesome game. Uh, I actually forgot about, I did play one Steam game this week, and just because I was really curious about it, and so is Hong Kong Massacre.
Mm.
And man, it is a basically like a your traditional John Woo style game, with birds flying and double fisted pistols, guys going after the Hong Kong mafia, whatever, for killing his wife and family or something like that. So the story is not so much important, but the action is, and it's when I first started playing, I was like, it's a top down action shooter, right? And you use your sticks to use one stick to move, one stick to aim, and you're using your triggers to shoot. And so it's man, I started the first level and I got killed right away because it was like I was with these kind of games you expect, like, okay, you get hit a couple of times, you have a health bar and this and that. Nope, it's literally if you get shot, you're dead. So it's a one hit, one kill experience. The rub is that you have a slow motion button, and so ideally you go through these, you go through each one of these rooms on this level, and you can take these guys out during normal time. And there's incentive for you to do that because you get more points and then you can upgrade your weapons and skills. But really, to get through these missions, you gotta use the slow motion. So it's almost kind of like uh, why can I think of it now? The game for PS2 that I just mentioned. Um, oh my god,
Max Payne or
Max
Hitman.
Payne, Max Payne.
Hmm.
Okay, it's like that mechanic. Okay, you go through the game. It's not 3D, and like I said, it's a top-down shooter. But just like in Max Payne, you can slow down the action and shoot your opponents. And so that's what you got to do in this game. And so it took me a while. I died a lot, uh, but it was still fun. Like it was like, you're encountering guys that have shotguns, pistols, automatic rifles, uh, and you're only equipped with two pistols, and they only carry so much rounds. So you're constantly picking up weapons from the dead people that you've gone after. And I find myself going back through these levels just so I can, there's uh, time goals that you can try to hit. There's accuracy goals that you can hit, and then there's don't use the slow motion, which to me right now feels like suicide because I feel like because I'm old, like I can't do it without going into slow motion. Like this is crazy. I don't know how you do this. So
Hmm.
it's a fun game, and it's definitely like Hades. It's a pick up and play type of game. You can play this thing for hours and not have to worry about it sucking your battery life. But it's a fun, and it's also a um it's a fun, but it's a strategic, and it is punishing on you if you make mistakes. So learning how to shoot accurately, learning how to time your attacks, because some people you think you got them, but they did a roll at the last second, and you're like, oh crap! And next thing you know, there's a shotgun in your face, and you're like, okay, we're starting the level over again. So I would highly recommend checking that one out, Hong Kong Massacre.
Yeah, I was just looking at the video of it, and I'm just like, oh wow,
It's
that looks
crazy.
hella impressive. Yeah.
It's a crazy game. Like I said, the first level, I must have died like 15 times before I beat it. I was like, I don't know. I don't even know why I'm playing this game, But when I
Y-
beat it and I realized what I needed to do, because at first I was trying to do it without using the slow motion.
mhm.
And I think, and like you, I just go into a game just hitting buttons.
Mhm.
And so I didn't realize there was a slow motion button at first. And I think I just stumbled upon it. I meant to shoot and I pushed the other because it was so frantic. I was like, oh my God. I'm like, why is the game slowing down? I'm like, holy shit, there's a slow motion mechanic. And then I started realizing, oh, I should have been using slow motion the entire time.
Mhm. I was gonna say, like, the Ascent, the game that you put me onto, is another top-down game, and there's another game I think I've been playing called Police Stories,
Mm.
and it's top-down. And my aiming sucks in all these games, number one. So that takes me a while to get used to. But other than that, there always have been these top-down games have become so much more fun every time I play them. I just got to get used to aiming in them to make it easier for me, because otherwise same thing with you, Mike. I'm getting killed over and over, like on the first level.
Right.
So it's crazy. All right, let's talk a little movie news, because I didn't really see this coming, and it's kind of impressive. And at the same time, I also kind of wonder what I'm missing at the same time. But this article here from Variety is that Avatar: The Way of the Water surges past Star Wars: The Force Awakens as the fourth biggest movie in history, which is really surprising to me. Pandora is more powerful than a galaxy far, far away. Avatar: The Way of the Water has passed Star Wars: The Force Awakens as the fourth highest grossing movie of all time. Director James Cameron's sci-fi epic has now earned $2 billion at the global box office. The Force Awakens, another sci-fi sequel released long after previous installments, finished its run at about 2.064 billion. Sorry, I should say that Avatar is at 2.075 billion. Now, when it comes to rankings right now, The Way of the Water, there's Avatar at 4, Avengers Endgame at 3, Titanic at 2, and then Spider-Man. No, oh wait, hold on, I'm reading this wrong completely. Ranked above The Way of the Water of all time grossing lists are Avatar, Avengers, and Titanic. So Avatar, the first one, is all time. Avengers Endgame is number 2, and Titanic is number 3. And so industry sources indicated that Avatar: The Way of the Water needed to earn 1.5 billion to break even, while Cameron at one point stated that they would need to be the third or fourth highest grossing film in history to start turning profit. Well, it has done that, so now it's turning a profit. Now, Mike, I don't know if you remember, but those out the gate numbers were so, I won't say they were low, but they came in less than expected. That Disney stock had dropped in price, and it was assumption that Avatar, quote unquote, was a failure. And then as it kind of ramped up through the holidays, it got more and more, I guess you can say, support from word of mouth, or maybe people finally decided to go to the theater, whatnot. But after you knew it, it just gathered steam, and then of course it hit internationally and so forth. But now here we are, and Avatar is the fourth highest earning movie. So what's your thoughts on that? Because I know me and you were like, I'm not necessarily going to see in theaters, but I'm not gonna lie, I thought it was going to be a good movie, but I didn't have high hopes that it was going to break through through earnings like this. I thought it would just be a mid-tier blockbuster, but it decided to show otherwise. So what's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised by it. I expected it to do very well. I mean, it's James Cameron. I mean, when the first Avatar came out, it did very well. And again, we're talking about the guy that made Titanic. So when he goes in on a movie, it's for a reason. That's why he gets backed by everybody. He's a sure bet when it comes to these like big budget types of movies. So I'm not surprised that it's this high grossing. I won't be surprised when it becomes number one all time. And I think that when you have such a this is why Top Gun did so well, because it took, you know, damn near, 30, 40 years for a new Top Gun to come out. Uh that people were just begging for it, and this was the same thing with Star Wars too, like Force Awakens. This is why Force Awakens did so well. It wasn't because it was a terribly great movie. It really wasn't. And I have no doubt that this movie wise is a way better movie than Star Wars Force Awakens, but because people were so starved for Star Wars movies, and because the episodes 1, 2, and 3 were just not good and had such a poor reception, I think people were so starved for it that they were excited. I also think too that the timing was intentional and worked out great for Avatar, because another reason why Star Wars didn't do as well, especially the sequels that came after it, was because there were so many other blockbusters coming out, especially with Marvel, that it's hard to compete with that. Okay. Avatar didn't have to compete with any blockbuster movie, any big budget movie when it came out. Obviously, you had movies that came out during that time, but none of them were big budget movies like Avatar. So you didn't have that big blockbuster that people were like, "Oh man, do I want to see this or do I want to see Avatar?" It was just Avatar. So I'm not surprised. I'm still I wait for it to come out streaming. I'm not too. Uh, I just the thing with James Cameron movies is that they're long, and I know that they're well crafted stories. I know they're gonna look visually amazing and sound amazing. Uh, but to me, if I didn't see Top Gun in the theater, I'm not seeing Avatar in the theater. The only movie that I've seen in the theater that, and again, it was in retrospect, I wish I had just watched it at home, was the Batman. Uh, and that was a great movie. but I'll wait for Avatar to come out on streaming. I have no doubt that it's a good movie. I'm not surprised by the success, but I don't know. I'm in kind of a place where I can wait. I waited for Top Gun, and I'm glad I did because it was amazing to me. And so I've been waiting for Black Panther, and it's going to be even sweeter when I watch it finally. So I think for me at least, I feel like the movie theater experience is kind of done for me. I'm just not as excited to go to movies anymore. And then even if I do, and I think that's just because I'm more of I'm a parent now. I've got kids. The logistics for me just, I have a full-time job. The logistics for me just isn't there that I'm the kind of guy that if I'm going to go watch this movie, I cannot have distractions. I need to watch this movie, have my popcorn, have my drink, and just be immersed in the experience. And that costs a lot of money. Uh, so if I'm gonna have to put up with all kinds of stuff, I'd rather just be home, you know.
I hear you.
So,
I hear you.
but yeah, I mean, I'm excited to watch it. I'm just wait for it to come out on on Disney. So, but yeah, I'm not surprised. James Cameron, you know, love him or hate him or for whatever reason. I mean, it's the same thing like with Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise is a weird guy. Okay. But Tom Cruise to me is the best action star ever. So love or hate James Cameron, the guy produces. He produces. And people wouldn't backed him. You never hear anybody about writers getting fired or having to do all these reshoots because of actors and this and that. Zoe, she's like, I'm so glad that I'll sign up for. I told James I'll sign up for another 20 movies
Mm.
if there are 20 more Avatar movies. She's like, I'm down. That's high. That's a lot. That's high praise for an actor to say for a franchise because most people who are attached to a franchise, they don't they want to do their stint and then get out because they don't want to be um, tagged as whatever persona. Uh, Chris Evans doesn't want to be tagged as Captain America all the time. Robert Downey Jr. doesn't want to always be tagged as Iron Man all the time. Um, Even your boy, I can't even think of his name now, that plays Spider Man. He doesn't want to be Spider Man his whole life. So
Tom Holland.
Tom Holland always be Spider Man his whole life. So when you have an actor be like to go to the director, to the creator of that franchise, and say, yeah, I would do as many movies as he would want me to do because she knows she's gonna get paid.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. I was gonna say, like, compared to probably Guardians of the Galaxy, Zoe Saldana probably gets points from Avatar.
Oh yeah,
And so she's probably, every time they hit two billies, she's just like, well, there's another massive check coming. I remember when Robert Downey Jr. was getting points, him and Chris Evans. I think Robert Downey Jr. got 50 million just to sign, and then he got points after what it brought
right,
back in return at the theater.
right.
So, you
Yeah, she
know,
she knows she's gonna get paid. But
absolutely. And she
I
doesn't
also
have to
think
do much.
yeah, and I also think too is I have to find this article, but she mentioned she loves working for James Cameron.
Mm.
You just don't find that with a lot of
Well, that's
directors.
kind of rare because he's one of those who I guess he consistently yells at you on camera. I mean, not camera, but in the background to get whatever he needs to be. Like, there's massive stories about his time during Titanic where he was like, I'm not gonna say verbally abusive, but borderline close to it.
Right.
So, like you said, to have that type of praise, yeah, he might have changed his method on how he does things and stuff like that. But that's what's up. Because again, I didn't foresee the vision when it came to Avatar. Like I said, James Cameron is known for being the techie when it comes to movies, and I didn't expect less on that side, but you know, I just didn't see these type of numbers. But it's good to see, and I'm not mad at it. Mike, we have talked in the past about this, but let me ask you, yes or no? Do you currently deal with superhero fatigue?
Right now, no, no, I don't do a superhero fatigue.
Okay. And why would you say you don't? Just out of curiosity.
I think if anything, like you said, this is something that we constantly talk about. Um, I can always watch a superhero movie. Um, I think what I get fatigue from is when there's there's no direction, right? So like my current issue with Marvel is that we don't really have a direction, you know.
Hmm.
Um, doesn't mean I'm not going to stop watching their stuff, but I there are other superhero stuff that I could be watching. I don't think I'll ever get to the point where I'm like, okay, I can't watch any more Marvel or DC or whatever other superhero shows out there. I mean, I've been waiting. We've been waiting for forever for a new Invincible season to come out. So and then maybe eventually when if your boy McFarlane can get Spawn up and going,
Mm.
um, I'll be excited to watch that one. So I don't know if I'll ever get to the point where I'm just like, you know what, bump these superhero characters. I'm gonna go to something more uh, related to a different genre, whether it
Hmm.
be fantasy or like hardcore sci-fi. Like I don't think I'll ever be like, okay, screw superheroes. I'm only sticking with Star Trek, Star Wars, and uh, The Expanse.
Yeah, I agree with that. So recently, Kevin Feige was asked the keys to avoiding superhero fatigue, and this was his answer. I've been at Marvel Studios for 22 years now, and over 22 years, and most of us here at Marvel Studios have been around a decade or longer together, he said. And from probably my second year at Marvel, people have been asking me, well, how long is it going to last? Is this a fad of comic book movies going to end? And I don't really understand the question, because to me it was akin to saying after Gone with the Wind, well, how many more movies can be made off novels? Do you think the audience will sour on movies being adapted from books? And so they go on to also mention here in this article, if fans are feeling fatigue from the franchise, Phase 4 of the MCU saw the release of 7 feature films as well as a number of Disney Plus shows, all of them introducing new heroes and villains beyond the title characters. As of December 2022, a study found that 36% of Marvel fans were fatigued by the number of releases per year, while 20% of DC fans felt that way. Feige, however, went on to say that just like books, comics can tell a plethora of different stories, ultimately keeping the superhero genre fresh and new. There are 80 years of the most interesting, emotional, groundbreaking stories that have been told in the Marvel comics, and it is our great privilege to be able what to take them and adapt them, he said. The last thing I wanted to mention here from this article was that Phase 4 came to an end in November 2022 with the release of both Black Panther Wakanda Forever in theaters and Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special on Disney Plus. Phase 5 will kick off with the release of Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania on February 17, 2023. The majority of MCU projects are currently available on Disney Plus, with Black Panther sequel Hidden Service on February 1st. All right, so I like you haven't hit, if we're going off of that category, I haven't hit superhero fatigue, but I do have a fatigue in two ways. One, like you mentioned, the direction, because Marvel, I look at Marvel almost how I look at Netflix. If Netflix makes me watch the show weekly, I can't stand it. Just like with Marvel, I can't stand watching a movie and not determine what's going to happen next. Even though you sit there, you sit for the post credits, the pre credits, whatever you want to call it, and then you're waiting to see, like, okay, where are we going with this? And then you get nothing out of it. That's to me almost the bigger disappointment than sometimes the movie or whatnot. But the other fatigue has come in that my tolerance for the TV shows isn't there anymore. You know, at first it was kind of exciting when, for example, Falcon and Winter Soldier came out, and even WandaVision. But as time has progressed, and I think around Moon Knight, Miss Marvel, some of those shows, my tolerance for anything TV show related has really ran thin. Where now that time I would love, like you mentioned before, I want to get back into some more sci-fi shows because there's been some great sci-fi shows that I haven't given it the opportunity because I was like, oh, this new Marvel show came out. Oh, for sure, I'm going to watch that. But now the downside is that I won't say that they're poorly written. It's just that they've been underwhelming, and so they never have hit the mark. And I would like to just see where are we going with the mutant side, with the X-Men and a few other franchises like the Fantastic Four. So, like, if you were to give me, for example, another movie of the most recent characters, Thor, Black Widow. I know we got a Guardians of the Galaxy 3 coming out, but I'm kind of like cool, but not really interested compared to you guys have. I think it's been about 5 years now that you've had these Fox characters that have now came back to the fold. And I want to see now what's going to take place with them in that sense. In the future, do I think I hit fatigue? No, because I do love superhero movies. They always have rang a chord with me. That's why I read comic books back in the day. I wish some stories were told better than others, like the God Killer from Thor. You know, there's some stories that in Batman I wish we're kind of fleshed out on the screen that we haven't seen yet. Same thing with Superman. And I would love to see more more diverse comics in the sense of I would like to see some stuff from Image finally hit the mark other than Invincible, something live action. Like you said, if Spawn comes around, I would love to see Spawn. And if not that, there's been some other great stories that were told under the Image umbrella that I feel needs to be eventually made over. My daughter is a big fan of Sweet Tooth on Netflix, and it's been I think 2 years since that show has came back. And I would love to see that as well. The guy who did Kick Ass, he had a whole universe under Netflix, and man, they missed the mark with that. It didn't hit the mark whatsoever. So, there is a bit of fatigue of it only being dominated by Marvel and DC for me. I would love to see some of these other stories kind of hit the fold, but I you the other side of it is you don't know what audiences like. And you if you go with what works, it works. If you, like, for example, try to bring something out and you assume that because he was popular, I'm looking at Hellboy and a few others, it did have a spark at one point, but it never grew into anything bigger than that. But I don't know. That's how I feel. Mike, any more thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think the bigger question, I don't like the term superhero fatigue. I think the
Mm,
bigger question is or should be, do people have Marvel fatigue? I think
mm,
that's the better way to approach it, because it's not that so much that people are getting sick and tired of superheroes. It's just that we've had so many Marvel films uh, that we got used to a certain way with the beginning, and we haven't gotten that now. So I
that's a
think
great
people are
point.
starting to feel that fatigue. I mean, you're always going to have superhero stuff. Um, it's always going to wax and wane, where we're going to hit a high and then we're going to hit a low. But there's always going to be superhero content out there. I think the bigger thing is, do you have Marvel fatigue? Do you have DC fatigue? I certainly have DC fatigue for sure. My Marvel fatigue is starting to get up there for the reasons I said before. But I don't think it's related to superheroes. I think it's related to the franchise. What
Hmm.
are you getting fatigue from this franchise? You know, um, there's not a lot of franchises that put out this many movies or last this long. Harry Potter. There are a ton of Harry Potter movies. Uh, I never got fatigue from the actual Harry Potter movies. Now, all the prequel movies, yeah, I got total fatigue from them. I watched the first one. I made it through it. I tried to watch the second one, and I just couldn't do it. Um, Same thing with Lord of the Rings. I got Lord of the Rings fatigue. Especially because those were like 3.5 hour long movies.
Hmm.
And I got through the first three movies, but then the next three, I was like, nope, I can't do it. I can't do it. You think about Die Hard. I got Die Hard fatigue. James Bond. I could watch James Bond all day. But there are certain eras within James Bond that I got James Bond fatigue. Roger Moore, I could not. I just couldn't do it. He was a terrible James Bond. So I didn't get James Bond fatigue. I just got fatigue from that franchise, for that era of Bond. So I'll always watch a Bond movie, but if they're going to be as bad as the Roger Moore movies, then you can count me out. And I'll even say Pierce Brosnan to a point. He got me on fatigue. So um, yeah, I think the bigger issue is, do people have fatigue with Marvel? I think that's what kind of ultimately did Star Wars, and as far as the movies go, was that people got fatigue from the Star Wars movies, especially because they, if you try to watch them all the way through those last three episodes, it really doesn't make that much sense. So,
Hmm.
uh, so for me, it was like, oh, great nostalgia, this, Jedi and Sith and Starfighter battles, and then it was just like you watch them again, you're like, oh my god, did I think this was good? Um, so yeah, I think it's just from the question should be, is it fatigue from the franchise? I think people are always going to wax and wane on superheroes. You're always going to go through a period where you're going to get uh what's his name from Baywatch.
David Hasselhoff.
You're always going to have a David Hasselhoff as Nick Fury. Um, so you're also going to have who was old boy that played Punisher back in the
Yeah,
day
Thomas Jane. Oh, yeah, Dolph Lundgren.
before. Yeah, Dolph Lundgren. You're
Hmm.
always, and I'll even throw Thomas Jane in there too. It wasn't
Hmm.
terrible, but we're always going to go through those lows. And then you may get to the middle. You get, you get your Blade. Um,
You know what?
but
I think the other side of that is, and I agree with you, Mike, is uh, you used to get a break, right? So,
right,
for example, we got the, let's say, three Batman movies, and then there'll be this pause of, let's say, 3 to 5 years where we don't get another Batman, and then Batman comes around again. X-Men were around quite a bit, but now these movies are coming out yearly, and when I say yearly, uh, in a whole year you might have, let's say, five theatrical releases, five TV shows, and at the beginning of this, there's, of course, there's excitement in the air, but now Disney comes to you like, hey, who's ready for some more Star Wars or Marvel?
right,
You almost kind of go, oh, okay. You was
right,
like,
right. And so that's when you get like fatigue from the franchise. It's
yeah.
like you said, you're putting out so much. Before it was you could expect a winter blockbuster,
Mm-hmm.
middle of this year blockbuster, and then a summer blockbuster.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, those were your windows to get blockbusters in. But now it's okay. Yeah, you're gonna get those, but you're gonna get movies in between those, and then we're
Mm-hmm.
gonna put out shows on the side that you can enjoy as well. And yeah, it sounds great. Uh, but when you keep just shotgunning stuff out there, like you mentioned the Winter Soldier, that one I didn't really enjoy that one at all. I always thought that one just should have been a movie. Just make that
Mm.
one a movie, to close out those characters. But um, after Loki, I was like, okay, Miss Marvel, I still haven't finished Moon Knight. Probably won't ever. Um, and then even She-Hulk. She-Hulk was better. It was a different type of tone. Uh, but then it got weird at the end with the whole fourth
Mm-hmm.
the wall thing. Uh, so it's just well, and then yeah, Hulk and his son, So I was like, okay. So yes, there is for sure franchise fatigue. I think that's what
Mm-hmm.
it really comes down to.
Mm-hmm.
Superhero fatigue, like you said, I'm never going to get there. Uh, and I think if you're just a normal person who's not into comics or anything like that, uh, yeah, you may see it as superhero fatigue. But I think more, if anything, it's just that franchise fatigue. If
Yeah.
Marvel was only putting out one movie a year, one TV show a year, I don't know if this ever comes up.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, and maybe it's Marvel's fault. This is why DC is struggling, because Marvel has put out this formula of X amount of movies, X amount of TV shows, and DC's trying to play catch up, and they're flunking big time. So
Well, I was gonna say, you kind of hit the mark about the franchise thing, because I'm thinking back to whether you liked it or not, when Twilight came out, there was a surge of vampire-ish TV shows and movies, but they
Hmm.
weren't all a part of the same universe, if you want to call it, right?
Right.
So by time, they were like, hey, you ready for another vampire show? People are like, no, because and they would fall off the earth. Same thing happened with zombies, right?
Hmm.
You had, I think of like of course, the ones that came out in theaters. I think Zack Snyder did one, and then we had Walking Dead. But I think like the fifth, sixth season of Walking Dead, people were like, I don't want to see another zombie. But they were all a part of different franchises. Like you said, everything being under the Marvel umbrella, the DC umbrella, and and DC trying to play catch up, Marvel creating this formula of we're going to saturate the market with all of this to try to basically get viewers one way or another. Oh, you don't like this, well, we got that. If you don't like that, we got this. So this should get you right. And then if all else fails, we'll throw Star Wars at you. And over now, if sitting here thinking about it, you know, Disney to me personally has a bigger problem in maybe another decade, right? Because those two franchises are probably, unless there's, of course, you have Pixar movies and stuff like that, but even Pixar, their schedule has been ramped up as well. So to me, some of their movies don't hit like they used to. Uh, because of all of this, these things are going to eventually wind down, and you're going to say to yourself, okay, so what's next? Well, like, hey, Marvel's been cool and all, but I'm done with Marvel. What else do you have, Disney?
Right.
And I don't know if Disney's ready for that conversation yet, because they, like I said, they're literally wringing that rag of everything as humanly possible for every last drop. And I think they're going to get to a point where, let's say they do another Infinity War Endgame type situation, or even like an Endgame situation, and it might not do the numbers they were expecting. It doesn't have that same cultural phenom that it was supposed to have. And so now they're like, okay, what do we do now? And Disney's gonna be like, we can throw another animated movie at them and be like, yeah, we're done. Pixar is cool, but it ain't doing what we were saying it's gonna do either. You know, so I don't know how they reinvigorate that.
Yeah, no, I like that point. I think Disney has done things. I just think that it's been overshadowed because of the Marvel and Star Wars stuff.
I agree.
So like, they come out with Willow as a remake,
Yeah.
as a show, and I want to watch it. But all I see when I load up Disney Plus is Marvel, 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 Star Wars, Star Wars, Star Wars.
Hmm.
And so it's kind of, I think that's where you're saying, what does Disney do when Marvel doesn't hit? Um, you know, well, you had other properties, but it got overshadowed by Marvel. So,
National Treasure is another one too,
yeah,
because
National Treasure just came out. Yeah, so it's
yeah,
like,
that first episode was great, but like you said, it's not even, I don't know, marketed at
yeah,
all.
right. And I
You
completely
know.
forgot about it because I've seen National Treasure on the banner, but then it's like,
Hmm.
oh, Marvel. Oh,
Yeah.
this. We actually just watched. I don't know if you've seen it yet. Strange World on Disney Plus, and
No, haven't seen it.
so we watched it. That's their new animated movie, and I mean, it didn't really resonate with me. It
Hmm.
didn't resonate with Elias, or it wasn't bad. It wasn't, everybody talks about Encanto and oh, everybody loves Encanto. I thought that movie was trash. Um,
Yeah, you say you're not a fan of musicals.
no, no,
Yeah.
I even watched the one with Ryan Reynolds and Will Ferrell, uh, and I made it through that, and that was fine. But
Ryan
again,
Reynolds and Will Ferrell.
yeah, it was on,
Was it the Christmas movie you're talking about?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay, yeah, I never saw it. I wasn't interested.
It
Okay,
it was good for a
okay.
musical. It was good, and there was a certain song in there that they did that was that had Jen and I rolling.
Mm,
So it was good for what it was. I made it through it.
mhm,
But yes, in general, I hate musicals. I won't
mhm.
watch Frozen. The family was watching Frozen the other day ago. I was like, nope. Um, so but they have other stuff. And so we watched Strange World. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't like that Toy Story magic. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like The
Mhm,
Incredibles. Like
mhm.
give me another Incredibles movie. Um, So, and I know it's not Disney, but uh like for some reason Ada love like let her watch a bunch of movies. She has no interest in the 2D cartoon movies.
Hmm.
No real interest in them at all. We tried to watch Peter Pan the other day ago. She gave it 2 minutes and that was it. Um,
My daughters are the same way.
but you put on The Incredibles or any of like the 3D stuff, she'll watch. But what she watches the most is Despicable Me and the Minions. She
Hmm.
absolutely those are the only movies that she'll pay attention to and actually react to. And this is like she's what 16 months right now. No 15 no 17 I don't know I can't remember. uh, Dad of the year, yay. uh uh, so but those movies got that magic for them. And right now, I like you said, I think that Disney should have a plan. I think they have a plan. I just don't they're not implementing it well enough or hitting the
Mm.
mark. Maybe they got to put out some more bad stuff to be like, all right, okay, Strange World didn't do so well. Let's reimagine because I could already see not to get political, but I could already see the lefties hating that movie, because there's a gay character in there. The movie's basically about uh, treating the planet well, like treat the planet well versus consuming, energy. So the energy source of the movie is this green energy source that's killing the thing that they're living on,
Mm.
which is essentially oil for us, right? Like we got to get away from using oil, burning oil. It's destroying, climate control and climate change and all this other stuff. And that's literally what this movie's about. So
I don't
they
even
were
think that movie came to theaters. I think it
I
just went
think, yeah,
straight to streaming.
it was straight to streaming.
Yeah.
So it was very on the nose on the topics they were putting in there. Usually Disney's very good about being very subtle about the
Mm.
themes and topics, especially when you go back to like the old school, like Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, whatever. When you go back to those movies, they have very subtle messages that are on, that just hit you right in the nose. Strange World was not one of those. It was very in your face, and I was like, oh my god, I don't know if I like this. Yeah, I think you're right. I think that Disney has to have something. I think they will. If they don't already, I think they will. They're one of those companies that can fail but still recover and do well. I don't know about DC and Warner Brothers, because they're just a hot mess. But I don't know. We'll see. The whole fatigue thing is for sure real, and uh, hopefully with this new Phase 5, we'll come out of that fog. At least be better because otherwise people are gonna start to revolt.
Well, I agree. I guess my last things on it is that Disney's schedule is so packed, and not even just saying between animation, Disney, excuse me, Disney in general, Marvel, Star Wars, and mind you, the Fox properties that they have. And I'm not talking about the superhero content, but just Fox properties in general. They're there's so much that comes out there that, like you said, it gets kind of lost in the fog. And if not given the proper identity, meaning like National Treasure or some of the other shows, they kind of get lost in the sauce. Because there's been like Luca is a good example. Luca to me is a great animation
Yeah, that was a great
movie that
movie.
came out,
Please.
and I don't know. I can't even say if it really got the props it required because of the fact that all the other stuff that probably came out around it. Because 1 month this movie comes out, next month that movie comes out, and so you have a good month to make your money, and then it's on to the next thing. But it's also kind of like a sign of the times too, because I know my wife used to be of the ilk that once this movie is done, okay, what's the next thing we're going to watch? I'm not watching the same thing, over and over again. My daughters aren't, well, there's movies that they watch over and over again. And you were talking about like trying to get my daughter to watch Lion King, not happening. Little Mermaid, not happening. You put on, like you said, you put on a CGI movie, they're all about that life, especially the Minions, How to Train Your Dragon, even though they don't really watch it as heavy. Big Hero 6, things like that. And then sometimes you can get them with some of the old school Cartoon Network stuff like Dexter's Laboratory and the Powerpuff Girls and a few others. But that's far in between as well. Because guess what? Even with all of that, you still got to compete with YouTube, so it's always going to be something. But we can go always deeper and deeper into this conversation. But it's going to be interesting to see what the future holds. I'll never we both said, we'll never have superhero fatigue. I think I just want fresher stories, if more than anything. All right, Mike. So to finish this off, let's talk about something kind of interesting. It's been talking about it all week, and it makes me think about Dead Island a little bit. Right now, Dead Island is a zombie game that Michael, myself, my brother, we used to play back in the day. I believe we beat that game once or twice. And the game itself, that game is funny in a whole lot of ways because number one, there's a trailer of Dead Island where there's this family, they're in a hotel room, and I don't remember, but like I think the waiter whoever brings their order in is a zombie, comes into the room, and zombies start attacking the room. Someone falls through the window, and you're like, holy crap, this is Dead Island. Oh, I want to play that game. And so you're super excited. And then the game gets released. And then you realize it has every racial trope that you ever seen known to
Mhm.
man, number one. And you see that this game looks nothing like the trailer. And didn't play anything like the trailer. And if I remember correctly, it was a subpar 7, 6, 7, 8 score when it came to the game out of 10, right? But what made that game so fun was the co-op of playing that game over with friends. And we listened to, like, for example, I remember one of the characters was this rapper from Jamaica, and he's this big burly black guy, and he used to go, hey yo, and blah blah blah. And you're just like, you're slamming more in the fact that these characters sound horrible than you are even worried about the game. Matter of fact, I don't even think we listened to much of the actual talking in the game. We just had the joy of beating up zombies and creating and crafting these different weapons to beat the crap out of zombies. Well, there's another game that I had personally kind of slightly been looking forward to, even though I've never been a fan of scripted trailers. And if you don't know what I mean, there is a trailer that you can look for out there of Rainbow Six as one of the iterations before we got Rainbow Six Siege, where they were going to have a co-op mode where you and your team is going through. And they had this scripted talk of like, hey, this is how we talk all cool during the game. And it made the game look horrible because of that. And so there's this new game called The Day Before. And The Day Before is supposed to be a survival horror game and a survival zombie horror game. And it kind of looks like you're looking at the division when you're playing it. And so we have an article here where the game has been delayed because the Day Before devs say delay was planned before trademark dispute. And if you don't know, the Day Before title itself hasn't even been trademarked by the company called Fantastic, and has been planning on delaying it before the dispute caused it to be pushed back for 8 months. Speaking on IGN, Fantastic co-founders Edward and Eisen Gotosev decry any allegations of scamming after several the Day Before community members grew concerned that the game was delayed for so long, just a few weeks ahead of its planned launch date of March 1st. Fantastic released a statement on January 25th claiming that the trademark dispute had forced the delay of both the game and its major gameplay trailer in over a year. We plan to move the game's release before the plan to announce it with publisher Mytona and a 10-minute gameplay video. Fantastic to IGN. And then you all know that what happened. So to be safe, to be on the safe side, to ensure that there's no more transfers, we, along with the publisher, chose November 10th. It's a safe date given the trademark dispute. Despite having now been delayed twice, with the first caused by a switch to Unreal Engine 5, Fantastic is still confident that it will have its trademark dispute solved by the new release date and plans of extra time improving the game in the meantime. And they put out a whole statement on social media. The problem with this is that a lot of people are saying is even if there is a trademark dispute, you could have put something out with a different title just so people could see some gameplay footage. And there's been many YouTube videos that have gone and done research on the game itself where it shows that this game might be fake and that they were trying to scam. And recently, from what we know, while the game was set up for pre-order on Steam, that too has disappeared. And they said that Steam took it down, but I think as more stuff comes to the light, it looks like this game isn't actually real. There's probably no actual game to be had. Or, like I just jokingly said earlier, we're going to see all these trailers that are going to say, hey, this is going to happen again, this is going to happen again, and this is going to happen again. And then what you actually get is going to be totally not it. The game is probably going to get a score of 3 or 4, and we'll never talk about this game again. Mike, what's your thoughts on all this drama that's been going on with the day before game?
Yeah, I mean it's had controversy for a while, especially with those trailers that have been put out that people were really heavily scrutinizing because they were it looked like gameplay, but it actually wasn't gameplay. It was like, as you mentioned at the very beginning, it was a scripted, and they didn't own it. They just said that this is actual gameplay when it really wasn't. And then so you had developers from all around watching this video and coming out and saying like, "Yo, this is not how things actually work," and they put you onto certain details, whether it was certain characters going just in a loop, or stuck in a loop, or how details didn't change as you progressed uh, through a map or anything like that. So or several like character models that are character models from a different game. In fact, I want to say they're character models from the Division was one of the controversies. Like, oh, these look like the guys from the Division.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess this is one of those situations where it's a Kickstarter. You're always going to have that kind of an issue, whether it's in gaming or not. And if you're a Steam person, you're for sure certain. You know, uh, Steam likes to do um, these early access games, right? Where you're paying a pretty good price for some of these games, uh, but you're doing it knowing that it's not a finished product. And sometimes those games get finished, sometimes they don't. But going into it, that's what you're getting. I think with this one, people just didn't know, and the way that they were misled early with those gameplay things, and now the trademark issues, and it just seems like a total mismanagement right now. So, yeah, I even when if this game ever comes out, uh, I stay far away from it until somebody says, "Yo, this is the best zombie game ever." Zombie survival game ever. Because again, it goes back to the whole fatigue thing. How many zombie survival games are there? There's a shit
Mm.
ton. There's an absolute shit ton. And I'm not the guy to uh, go out and play every zombie survival game. I think the last one I played was probably, what was it, 7 Days to Die or 7 Days to Live or something like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yep.
And that was playing with you guys, you and Brandon and your friends, and that was a lot of fun. It wasn't the most graphically impressive game. There was no story really to it. Uh, but it was a huge environment. You could do a lot of things, and it was a lot of fun. So, um, you know, I I think when it comes to that, then it's like even the TV show for The Last of Us came out. I still have yet to play that game. And granted, it's not a true zombie survival type of game, MMO type of game. Uh, but how many zombie games are we gonna get? It's just like you said with the TV shows. How many zombie TV shows are there?
Mm-hmm.
So I, this one, it's it's like watching a car fire. Like you shake your head and you're like, but you can't turn away because you're just like, I just want to see it. I just want to see it burn. I want to see it blow up. I just want to see what other crazy mess is going to come out of this because I don't think this game ever going to come out.
No, I don't see it coming out either. And I think I agree with you, Michael. I think because they put out this gameplay footage to give you the thought that there was an actual game, and there's that there's that curiosity of what you're going to get. Like you said, it looks, and to me, when I saw the footage, I was like, man, this looks extremely like the Division. And they probably took that footage from the Division and turned it into whatever this game was supposed to be. I don't even think we even see the villains in this game.
Right.
And I'm not really interested in playing a survival MMO like a Rust or something like that in this type of environment either. I we've mentioned it before. I just want a game kind of like a la style Borderlands where I can play with 3 other people, 4 other people, and just run around the map and kick butt the whole time while it's going on. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with this game. I think eventually it's going to come out that this game is either a scam altogether, or the game itself isn't, or whatever production of the game that they do bring out is not going to be anything that we were looking for. So it
I
is
think
what it
one of
is.
the craziest things of the story was that they were recruiting volunteers to help them develop the game. So if that's not a sign that this game is not going to come
Yeah.
out and it's not going to be good, you know what? You can't make a game of volunteers. This isn't like a college class.
Mhm.
That's like something that you ask your students in programming to here. Okay, guys, we're going to make a zombie horror game for your assignment. That's your end of year assignment. That's like a bunch of guys on Discord going to each other like, "Hey, would it be cool if we just modded Division into
Mhm.
a zombie game? Yeah, man, that'd be cool." That's what you do. You know, I used to pay people to pay for a game where, and I don't know how many they actually got recruited to volunteer. Uh, how many people is it? Is it 10? Is it 20? Is it 100? Like,
Who
like,
who
I,
knows?
no, man, I want you to employ people that you're paying a shit ton of money to develop this game. Because otherwise, I don't want to get some guy that just got into game development and is trying to get their feet wet by volunteering on this project that you say is so awesome. That's got, what did they say? That it's got this. It's on Nvidia. It's got ray tracing and DLSS. Like, cool, but how good could it be if you got volunteers working for you?
Mhm.
Like NASA's not employing volunteers to build their ships and launch their ships into space. All right, them dudes get paid. You know what I'm saying? Like, would you want to drive a Tesla that was made by volunteers? Hell no.
That's
like,
that's funny. That's
like,
funny because I'm sitting here thinking about it. Can you just imagine being on Fiverr and just be like, "Hey, for $10, I'm willing to
right,
help make your spacecraft."
right. Like, nah, man, I'm not trying to fly to space on something from SpaceX that was made by volunteers. That's
Mhm.
crazy. You're not going to convince me to buy this game that you're hyping up to be this amazing experience that you got volunteers working. Nah, nope, something's fishy there, buddy.
Yeah, I know.
Why can you not get people? Why are people, if you're offering people money to play it to develop the game and they're not taking the job? What's the issue here? Now you got to get volunteers.
Mhm.
Yeah, no. It's like I said, it's one of those things where I'm just watching the fire, see what other kind of crazy stuff comes out.
Yeah, I agree. And well, gaming's changed over the years as well. These high studios don't always have the best game in mind, and some of these studios that are independent, and the most smallest title becomes the greatest thing. And it's interesting to see sometimes because EA in this day used to be one of the companies where I used to go like, man, who can ever stop them? And now I'm always hesitant to buy a game from them. But some of these independent studios, like I remember how big Among Us was at one point, or Fall Guys and a few other games. And those games aren't from the biggest studios, but they're fun games to play. The
Right.
game that you play, Mike, you and Elias used to play, I can't recall it, where you're in like a toy box type of world.
Oh yeah,
You know,
yeah.
all of those games have their own level of popularity. And well, let me put it this way: they have their own legion of fans that make them great, right? You know, I haven't seen like there's a game called Choo Choo Charles that is not necessarily a game for me, but it it has its fans out there, you know, and it's just jokingly talking about Thomas the Tank Engine, you know, but it's the way things are now, and these other people try to come in there and kind of screw it up by number one, you get these people who put these horrible games out. Are you have people who scam and they don't even get a game out there, especially like on a Kickstarter. So we're gonna have to play this one by ear and see what happens, and we'll go from there. Mike, to end us off, and we haven't done this in a while, I don't believe. Tell me something that you're looking forward to this coming week, and I will, of course, come up with something as well. If you're not ready, I can start it off.
Yeah, so I think mine is going to be more on the production side. So look, this week I've got a video coming up. It's going to be accessories for the Steam Deck, and then I'm also going to have a video for just games in general. And it'll most likely be like the emulation stuff, but we'll see what other games I can get through this week. I think that's the biggest thing that I'm looking forward to doing is just getting back to making videos. Whether it's Steam Deck related, gameplay related, or otherwise. I'm TV show wise, movie wise. I don't have anything. I mean, I'm still waiting for Black Panther to come out on streaming. Like I said, I'm chomping at the bit for that one. I'll
This Wednesday, baby.
yeah. I'll good. I will. That'll be the thing. Like I will be salivating for it. I will be ready for it. I know the family is going to be ready for it. So that should be a great experience. And then as far as TV shows, I don't really have anything that I'm too excited for, other than I'm waiting for the next season of Mandalorian to start. So we'll see when that starts and how that goes. But mostly this week coming up is going to be all about video games and putting out some videos for our populace. So
That's what's up. That's what's up. So this week, I think I'm going to try to finish Cyberpunk 2077. I haven't finished that game for a few reasons, mostly because I love that world so much. I didn't want to finish the game because once I finish the game, I know I'm not going to want to play it. But it's about that time. But I've had a blast playing it through the bugs and everything. That game is just fun, and in a cybernetic world, it it's always been fun to me because of that. So I think I might try to finish that off this weekend. I got gameplay footage already of most of it, so I might take some gameplay footage of this as well. The other thing that I want to try to do this week is slowly start working my way through The Expanse. I've said this over and over and
mm,
over again, but I think it's time for me to finally go ahead and get it out of the way, because if I remember correctly, the series it's done, it's completed, so there's really no excuse. There's not really much on the forefront that I'm really looking for. There is. I do want to see that Netflix movie, You People, with Eddie Murphy and a
heard that
few
was
other
very
people.
good.
I've heard good things as
Yeah,
well.
it's
So
got
I
the
am. Go
um,
ahead.
I was gonna say it's got the guy from oh my god, I can't think of his
Super
name.
bad.
Yeah, super
I
bad.
can't think of
Yeah.
his name either right
Oh
now,
man,
but I
I
know you're
just
talking
got
about.
told about this. I think on Monday or Tuesday.
It
I heard
has
it was really good.
Yeah, it has Julia Louis Dreyfus in it. It
Yep.
has Laura London in it. They have an all-star cast in it, and I saw the trailer in the past. To me, it looks hilarious. Anything I know, Eddie Murphy doesn't necessarily make the greatest movies, but every time I get to see him on screen, I'm always happy because that guy has just always been funny one way or another. It might not be your type of comedy sometimes, because I will admit, looking back at some of the Nutty Professor isn't the greatest, but still I'm always glad to see that guy on film. So I'm definitely going to check that out as well this week. But
Have you
yeah,
seen
so
Nope?
nope.
That was the one by Jordan Peele.
I've been meaning to watch that. I still have not watched that yet.
Watch it. So Jen and I watched it. This was
Okay.
weeks ago, of course. And I keep meaning to mention it in the show because it's interesting movie. He comes out with a lot of horror movies. Yeah, I mean he only does horror movies.
Yep.
Um, but this was the one that I was actually particularly excited to see, and I think I want you to watch it because I'm curious to see what you think about it,
Okay.
especially as far as like it's kind of like the movie Signs, with Mel Gibson,
Sure.
but it's a different take on the UFO, and I thought it was really
I
it was
heard either you're gonna like it or you're gonna hate it.
yeah.
There's no in between.
Yeah, I'll say I liked it. I liked it a
Hmm.
lot, actually.
Okay.
It's just a different. It's not your typical sci-fi horror
Sure.
movie. But hey, props to Peel, man. He puts out some good stuff.
Yeah, man. I know. You know what? It's crazy, but it has its truths and it has its untruths to it. I almost look at Peele and M. Night Shyamalan a little bit the same way.
Oh,
And no,
absolutely.
and when I say that is that there's a few guarantees. Oh, well, there's one thing that I'm going to scratch the record on when it comes to M. Night Shyamalan. That movie he did with Will Smith. It should never happen. But anyway, um, other than that, they always give me something unique. Whether I love it or hate it, they always give me something unique. They're not going to give me the same old when it comes to sci-fi horror-ish genre, depending on how you want to look at it. But I have never went in there and been like, oh, I can almost guarantee this is going to happen. And they always find a different formula to make certain things work. The last M. Night Shyamalan movie I watched was Old, and
Mm,
Old is okay. It's a decent movie. It's not the greatest. It's not the worst, but it was just interesting because it was a different conversation on in this type of environment than I'd seen before. I'd never seen, other than if you think of what was it, Thinner, I think, or something like that, where time accelerated. And I never watched that movie,
right.
but I did enjoy it for that part. That again, Signs isn't the greatest movie, but still, when you look at it, you're just like, okay, well, that's different, because every other movie that I watch, I'll give you a prime example. Everyone used to relate Avatar to Pocahontas because the story is almost borderline the same,
Right.
except for etching out a couple differences. And there's nothing wrong with that because they put it in their own spin on it. But I do love people who give me a unique experience when I watch their movies. And that there's a guarantee I'm definitely going to get it from Peele and I'm definitely going to get it from M. Night Shyamalan. So I am definitely looking forward to that. And M. Night Shyamalan got a movie that's in theaters now, or it's
Knock at the
coming to out.
cabin.
Mhm.
Knock at the cabin.
Yes, and I want to check that out. It looks interesting. I don't know, what it's all about, but that would be interesting. Oh, and one last thing I want to do is give props again to Echo 3. I've watched 3 episodes of that slowly, and they have not disappointed. I
Okay.
wish I could watch. I could watch more, but I don't know. I feel like I'm doing myself a disservice if I binge watch it. So I
Mm,
like watching it whenever I get the time to watch it. So it's been great. I can't wait to watch that further as well.
okay.
Well, all right, ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of the Nation 80 Podcast. This is episode 31. I'm so glad to have been able to kick it with my cousin again for another week. And it's nothing more fun to keep this schedule going before the holidays pop up again, or summer vacation, or spring vacation, and things get out of whack again. But, there's nothing better than to sit and talk about the things you love and enjoy and, hear someone else's opinion. So until then, I'm just going to ask you to keep your imagination up, and we will see you for another episode.